know that there is a very big, ambitious plan to set up a transnational electricity grid supplying solar power. And International Solar Energy Alliance will be the implementing agency. We are extremely proud and happy to have Dr. Ajoy Mathur with us, who has taken this responsibility. He is otherwise the friend, philosopher, and guide for the chamber since long. Took the pain to come all across from the Delhi in this very difficult time of pandemic. So we are truly grateful to you, sir. To set a few words on the context. In my view, when I was thinking, I was young, the renewable energy that was more of on an experimental basis, more of an academic purpose. We had doubt, we had anxiety, we didn't have that much of confidence. Uncertainty was there. But today, gradually, when the volume has reached to a level, when we are confident, when we can see the writing on the wall, the biggest challenge for me today is the transition management. Because the conventional investment, what has been set in, recently Ministry of Power, they have advised the thermal plants to operate at a low load. It's not the question of operation only, it's the question of how to really level up the efficiency, how to really make it cost optimized in spite of accommodating the need of the day. So again, it's a collaboration. We speak of collaboration in the political framework, in the economic framework, now in the energy framework also we need to have a collaborative approach. And this transition management, keeping the stability, reliability, cost into the framework of obtained into this framework is extremely important. Another important thing on the structural point of view, I have observed that initially the energy was managed from the source. Now it is considered to be managed at the user end, at the consumer end. Me as an industry, as a housing society, I need to manage how I can make it a net zero, how it can optimize my energy consumption. So it's not only the technology, it's empowerment. It's thinking differently, it's independence, it's planning. So to me, it's a culture change process. So that's very important on the issue of structural framework as well as mindset. India, of course, is little advantageous in a sense. We always have a great amount of trust and faith on sun. We believe that sun is the ruler of the universe. Sun is the remover of all diseases. So, repository of peace. So, we have that faith, confidence. And I believe West OWOG initiative, what has been taken up since 2018, will see the light of the day soon. And we will soon see the transnational framework of solar energy transfer, what has been thought of. The important points what need to be looked into is the sustainability and how to address the intermittency using the storage technology. So these are the broad framework I thought I would share with you, and this should be aligned with this net zero what we have been talking about. Today again, we are proud to have with us Dr. Ajoy Mathur, I have already mentioned. Another very important person, Mr. Nick Lowe, who also had been with us since long. British Deputy High Commissioner, he has also accepted our invitation. And all of you know that as a matter of fact, that November 2021, Glasgow in UK, they will be hosting the COP26. We will all eagerly waiting to listen to Mr. Lowe when we are just a few months from that great event. We also have Manfred Oster, Consul General of Germany in Kolkata, Mr. Nakamura Yutaka, Consul General of Japan in Kolkata, who have been kind enough to join us today. We are expecting Raswan Ainsworth, Consul General of Australia in Kolkata, but he will be joining from New Delhi. We have with us the partner organization Power Road Limited, Mr. Neil Spann, CEO, and Mr. Don Scott, Business Development Director. They will be joining, they are joining from UK. Mr. Ketan Chitnis, Vice President, Stationary BU, Excite Lakelandshire Energy Private Limited. He is joining from Mumbai. We have already become transnational, international. So the framework, today few of us are here. It is being streamed all across. So I'm stealing the word from my respected president. It is a phygital form. And I hope that many people will be listening to this great event, and with your deliberation, interaction, it will not only be limited to a curtain raiser only, it will lead to a very, very fruitful deliberation. With this, I invite our respected President, Mr. Debe Mukherjee, to give his welcome address. And he is not only the President of BCCI, I have seen him the greatest advocate for bringing the world as clean, as green as possible. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Gautam, for your kind and very generous words. I'm not worthy of what you said, but thank you nonetheless. Very good morning to all of you, physically, those who are physically present, and of course, my business colleagues, and possibly some chamber colleagues also who have joined online. I can see Mr. Neil Spann and Mr. Don Scott on the screen right in front of us. Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Don. I take this opportunity to join our Vice President, Mr. Gautam Ray, in extending a warm welcome to all of you. Particularly, I think it's only in order that I formally welcome His Excellency, Dr. Ajay Mathur, the Director General of International Solar Alliance, who has so graciously agreed to come in person to the chamber for this event. I'm deeply grateful to you, sir. A very warm welcome to His Excellency, Mr. Nick Lowe, the British Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata. And thank you, Nick, as always, for your support to the chamber and to the cause for which we have assembled here today, and connecting to ISA, to International Solar Alliance. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence. A warm welcome to Mr. Manfred Oster, Consul General of Germany, and to Mr. Nakamura Yutaka, Consul General of Japan. Your Excellencies, we are deeply grateful that you have graced this occasion with your presence, physical presence. Deeply appreciated. I'm grateful to our past presidents, Mr. Alok Mukherjee, Mr. Shandipon Chakraborty, Mr. Aniruddha Lahiri, they are all with us. Mr. Arun Mukherjee, the reason why I mention about Mr. Arun Mukherjee, because I always consider him as the architect of the annual Energy and Environment Conclave that this chamber is so proud to host every year, and which has now reached a certain level, I would say, of excellence. Arunda, I think you would agree with me. And as I always say, I'm grateful to Arun Mukherjee because he is the guy who actually brought me to Bengal Chamber. And I have no hesitation in making that public. What makes this event special, and I would say rather propitious, is that this event actually puts in place a very interesting proposition. International Solar Alliance, its reach, its influence, its impact on the global scenario, and the role it plays in creating the political space, if I may say, for ambitious action in our journey to a low carbon future. But dovetailing this, as my Vice President mentioned, is the presence of Dr. Ajay Mathur, under whose leadership ISA is now going to move forward. And it is this confluence or this meeting that has happened also helps the global community on delivering the promises and the expectations that we all have from COP26, which is just 4 months away. Now, you must be wondering why I say this. And this has a direct nexus with Dr. Mathur's professional journey over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 decades. If you look at the charter, and Nick can correct me if I go wrong anywhere, in very simple terms, there are 5 areas that the COP26 UK Charter of Actions look at. Of course, the transition to green energy, clean energy, the transition to clean transport, development of nature-based solutions, adaptation and resilience, and underpinning it all, and the most important aspect, green finance, because that's how the transformation can happen, the transition can take place. Now, if you look at all these 5 aspects in COP26, Dr. Ajay Mathur's role as head of ISA goes beyond just the solarization of the world towards also addressing all these 5 aspects, considering the huge expertise and experience he has picked over the years, over the last 25, 30 years in his professional career. Right from the time, if I recall, and if I get it right, when he was president of Suzlon Energy, he was in industry. When he was in the World Bank, he was in policy at an international level. When he came to India as the Director General of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, he brought about a transformational change in energy efficiency, which we all accept today as something which we willingly adopt. Then from there, as the director of the Green Climate Fund in Bonn, where he played a pivotal role in organizing green finance and bringing it into the equation in this transformational change in this journey towards a green future. And having come back to India again as the Director General of TERI, a leading think tank internationally that plays a pivotal role not only in the transition to clean energy or clean transport, but also in biodiversity, in natural resource efficiency, and all other aspects that go towards a clean and green transformation. And now his change into the role of the executive head of International Solar Agency, which is going to bring together the whole world into one common, tie them into one common agenda. And that will be the subject of his talk, the vision of ISA. One world, one sun, one grid. But as I said, it goes beyond desolarization. It goes towards fulfilling our commitments for a green transformation, our race towards net zero, low carbon business of tomorrow in the new climate economy. And that is also the theme of this Chamber's annual Energy and Environment Conclave in August. And befittingly, this curtain raiser assumes a significance towards fulfilling the vision that we have for our conclave later on this year. On that note, again, I extend a very warm welcome to all my colleagues, friends, who have joined online virtually, and all of you who are present here. Today, we also have an opportunity to have a bit of an interaction, so to speak, a conversation with Dr. Mathur later on. And that would be a good time for some of you, though we can't have, time is rather limited and he has to fly back to Delhi. So we will try to have a very focused discussion, something that will be more meaningful, impactful, and will be of benefit to all of us later on in the program. Thank you very much, and over to you, Gautam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deve Mukherjee, for setting the context through your welcome address. You have rightly said about the 5 pillars, and we all are eagerly waiting to listen to, as I have mentioned earlier, Mr. Nick Lowe at the threshold of COP26. What will happen? Mr. Lowe, please.
Mr. Gautam Ray, Chairperson, Energy and Environment Committee. President, Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Neil Spann and Mr. Don Scott from Powerol United Kingdom, Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, Manfred Nakamura, friends, colleagues, Namaskar, Namaste, Namaskara, Salam Alaikum, very good morning to all of you. Thank you for inviting me. Deb, you are a terribly difficult speaker to follow. How can I possibly follow intervention? That was magisterial, and I'm extremely grateful. And as representative of the country which, with our partners in Italy, will be hosting COP26, let me put on record how absolutely crucial your support has been to us over the last year. When we've needed a friend, when we've needed a partner to stage an event, you've always been there for us. And that's come from the heart. You've not done it because we've had to twist your arms. Your arms have always been open to us, and we're immensely grateful. Thank you very much indeed for that. So my mission is to set the scene 3.5 months away from COP26. I feel I should inject some energy into the room. You know, all of us will remember in 2016, a certain politician on the opposite side of the Atlantic who'd walk into a room and say, "What are we going to build?" And the audience would bellow back, "A wall." And then he'd say, "Who's going to pay for it?" And they would bellow back, "Mexico." I feel I should ask you, where are we going to go in November? And I want you to shout Glasgow at me. And then I'm going to ask you, what are we going to do? And you're going to shout, "We're going to save the world," because we need to. We really do need to. My government, vast majority of British people,
This meeting is being recorded.
That this is our last best chance to avoid irreparable and irreversible damage to our planet. It is far and away the greatest challenge of our era. We will not get a second chance. The decade out to 2030 is the decade where we crack this, or frankly, there's no way back. That is an enormous challenge. So you want to know, don't you, whether we're going to do it? Back in 2001, when our Prime Minister, Tony Blair, called an election and stood for re-election after his first term, he memorably said, "A lot done and a lot still to do." And I think that's where we're at with COP26. Is success in the bag? No, it's not. Is it doable? Yes, it is. It's very, very doable, and we need to do it. So we're at the point of no return. One of the things that encourages me is if I was giving this speech in the run-up to Paris in 2015, I'd have to set out the case for why climate change was a threat. There'd be some skeptics in the room, wouldn't believe it. I think it's very encouraging now. We've gone beyond that. I no longer have to do that. There are no serious voices out there who doesn't think climate change is a threat or that climate change is being driven by human activity. And that's immensely important that we're all working from that same base. Immensely important. Nor do I think, and I remember doing this a couple of times with you last year, Deb, go through a body count of all the temperature records that have been broken in preceding months. You know, all of us read what happened in Canada. Canada, I mean, not a country we associate with temperatures of almost 50 degrees Celsius. It's out there and it's happening, and we've got to do something about it. Here, closer to home, you know, yet another cyclone of immense proportions. Yes, okay, City of Kolkata got away with it much more than we did with Umpun last year. But I'm told from those who've been down in southwest Bengal this year, the situation absolutely dreadful, damage that's done to ordinary people's lives. And we've got to do something about it. I think the good news is that not only is public opinion on our side, not only is political will on our side, but technology is increasingly on our side. You know, we are seeing advances in tackling it that are leading to cleaner air, they're creating good jobs, we're restoring nature, and at the same time, we're unleashing economic growth. An astonishing stat from the United Kingdom is, as recently as 2014, we were generating 40% of our electricity by burning coal. In just 7 years, we pushed that down to 2%, and coal will disappear from our energy matrix completely by 2024. If someone had said, was that possible in 2014? I, as a Brit, would have said, no way. I mean, you're joking. You can't replace 40% of your entire energy matrix in such a short time. We've done it. Other countries are doing it. I'm looking at representatives of other countries doing it. India is doing it. This is something we can do. So what do we need to do at COP26? Well, Deb, you set out 5 points. I'm not going to give you 4. Maybe a little bit of marketing around this, but maybe 5 was too many to remember. So we're coming down to 4. It's about mitigation. It's about adaptation. It's about finance, and it's about collaboration. So the key point on mitigation is, as both of you have rightly said, securing global net zero by the middle of this century and keeping 1.5 degrees within reach. Now, it's vital that countries come forward with ambitious 2030 greenhouse gas emissions reductions targets that align them with reaching net zero by 2050. And we can do that by accelerating the phase out of coal. We can do it by investing in renewables, and I nod to you, Dr. Mathur, on your absolutely crucial and irreplaceable role in driving that forward, in curtailing deforestation, and in speeding up the switch to electric vehicles. Adaptation, all about protecting communities and protecting natural habitats. The climate, as you know, is already changing, and we have to face the fact that it's going to continue to change, even as we reduce emissions. And those changes are going to produce devastating effects. So at COP26, we need to work together to enable and encourage communities affected by climate change to protect and to restore ecosystems, to build defenses, to put warning systems in place, and to make infrastructure and agriculture more resilient to avoid the loss of homes, livelihoods, and indeed lives. Mobilizing finance, and I'm glad you've called it out, because historically, people like me have been a bit defensive on that. And we're not in a good position, because Indians in the room can look at us, can look at my Japanese colleague, can look at my German colleague and say, but hang on, haven't you really caused this problem? Our per capita emissions are way, way below yours. Shouldn't you be paying for this? And the answer is, yes, we probably should be, and yes, we are going to. Because to realize those two goals on mitigation and adaptation, developed countries must deliver on the promise we made way back in 2009 to raise at least $100 billion a year in climate finance. And I've got some good news for you. And funnily enough, it was, good news rarely makes the headlines, as you know. But there was some good news, because right at the end of the G7 summit in Carbis Bay in my country last month, G7 leaders came to an agreement which will see us reach that $100 billion a year minimum commitment in the very, very near future. It's been a long struggle to get there, but we're there, and we're very proud we have. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. It's clearly not going to be enough. We're going to be working with international financial institutions. They've got to play their part, and we need to work towards unleashing, frankly, the trillions in private and public sector finance required. But that's been a major, major step forward, and we're very proud of that. The fourth thing we need to do is to collaborate. We have to work together. And that's why events like this are so important. This is not just for governments. We can't do it without governments. Absolutely can't do it without governments. And that's why leaders from around the world will be in Glasgow at the beginning of November. But we need the corporate world, we need the private sector, we need our science and academic institutes, and we need ordinary people to pull together to make this happen. We need to work together. Global problems require global solutions. We can only rise to the challenge of climate change by working together. And we have to turn our ambitions into action by accelerating that collaboration between governments, between businesses, between civil society to deliver on our climate goals. It's not my intention to make this a bilateral speech, but I think I probably do need to say just a little bit about the United Kingdom. So let me start by saying, Dr. Mathur, that we are truly honoured to be a member of the International Solar Alliance and vice president of its Europe and Other Regions chapter. And we've been hugely impressed by the International Solar Alliance's progress so far. As you know, Alok Sharma, who will be the president of COP26 in Glasgow, has already committed to using COP26 to raise the profile of your organization, of our organization globally. We very much look forward to doing that. With you personally, sir, we've had a brilliant long-standing association during your tenure at the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, at TERI, and now in the International Solar Alliance. We've always been impressed and inspired by your vision, by the effectiveness of your ideas, and by the depth of your engagement on climate change. I'm really looking forward to hearing what it is you've got to say. In April of this year, my Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and the Honourable Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, agreed to launch a Green Grids initiative at COP26, and the ISA-led One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative is going to be one of the first manifestations of that. It really will be something to look forward to. It's going to be absolutely critical in achieving our ambitions of net zero by 2050. My colleagues have given me an incredibly long paragraph to read about our progress in the United Kingdom towards green transport. I will just pick out two little points of it to you. A transition to 100% new car and van sales being zero emission by 2025. That is not new. What is new is a commitment to electrify the entire fleet of government vehicles in the United Kingdom by 2027. And that really is on the near horizon. We've, in the last week, and it's available on the net, set out a green print, we call it, to decarbonize the United Kingdom's seas and skies, roads and railways, creating hundreds of thousands of new green jobs and ensuring cleaner air for healthier communities. And that comes on top of the recent news that Nissan and the parent company of Vauxhall, formerly General Motors, electric vehicle manufacturing plants will open in the United Kingdom. This is not just about the UK taking a leading role in the run-up to COP26. We will continue with our friends and partners in the G7 to work on this agenda, really putting it at the forefront of all we do internationally. Finally, let me end by saying our common goal clearly is to protect our communities and the natural environment from the impact of climate change. It's not just about us, it's about our children, it's about our children's children. This potentially is the greatest catastrophe in recorded human history, and it's one we can avoid. There is a moment that we can seize, and that moment, if not now, that moment is November. As the Romans said, carpe diem, seize the day. Work with us, make it happen. Let's stick together. Looking forward to the event next month, Deb, and make further progress. Each and every one of us has a role in doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nicklow, for your excellent deliberation. And I do not remember a more grounded and contextual sentence, that last best chance to save the planet. Last best chance to save the planet. It is so strong a vision, so strong a statement, I will never forget it. And definitely we all are waiting to participate in COP26 to the best of our ability. And you have rightly mentioned the city of Calcutta witnessed the major cyclones. Maybe we have just survived from Yash, but we have seen what has happened during Amphan just a year before. So we have a great concern for that. And the four elements what you have mentioned, mitigation, adaptation, finance and collaboration. That's basically key words. And the collaboration doesn't restrict to the government initiative only. Collaboration speaks for the participation of
all. That's very important. Thank you, sir. We are now inviting Dr. Ajay Mathur. We all are eagerly waiting to listen to him, his keynote address on OSOWOG, the vision of ISA. Dr. Mathur needs no introduction. We have discussed so much about his, whatever he has contributed. I can only say that, sir, future of the world will remember you for your passion and contribution. Dr. Mathur, please.
President of the Bengal Chamber, Mr. Dev Mukherjee, Mr. Gautam Ray, Deputy High Commissioner Low, my fellow panelists, Mr. Neil Span and Mr. Ketan Chitnis, President-designate Stephanos. Very much like me, very much like Mr. Mukherjee, I was also drawn into the chamber by Mr. Alok Mukherjee and Mr. Arun Mukherjee. I'm also delighted to see my friend, mentor, and guide, Mr. Partha Bhattacharya here with us. And obviously, Consul Generals Yutaka and Auster. A very, very good morning to all my friends here, both friends of many, many years, as well as those who I'm meeting for the first time. First of all, many thanks for the many, many kind words. This partnership with the Bengal Chamber is something I personally cherish. And consequently, it is something that I keep building on year after year. You have been very kind to me, and I will certainly try to see how I can bring to you the vision that we see for the world in the years to come. At the International Solar Alliance, which I joined on the 16th of March this year, one of our flagship programs is what we talk about here today, the One Sun, One World, One Grid, or OSOWOG as it's called. Not the best of acronyms, but I think it's too late to change it now. It is at the heart of it a relatively simple concept. And the concept is that in certain parts of the world, you have renewable energy at a time when it is not available elsewhere. For example, if you look at the evening in India, that's a time when there's the greatest need for electricity and there's no sun. How do we get it at that time? Thanks to Mr. Chitnis, who will be speaking, there will be a certain amount of electricity that we can store in batteries and provide it. But yet another way is that we tap the generation which is occurring in, say, the Gulf countries. And therefore, if there is a connection between the GCC grid, the Gulf Coordination Council grid, and the South Asian grid, it would help us move green energy from West Asia to South Asia. And in a very similar manner, it can move it from South Asia to East Asia at the appropriate time. It's not as if this is a new idea. We have talked about a grid connection between North Africa and Europe for many years. There has been talk of a link between the deserts of Australia, North Australia, where we can put in a lot of solar, and Singapore. And I do hope that despite the current drawbacks, it will come back in a little while. We have for many years understood that it is possible for countries to benefit from regional trade. I'm delighted that Consul General Auster is here. Germany has proven that you can have days when the entire demand can be met from renewable energy. And remember, Germany has got much lower solar insolation as compared to India. But the great advantage is that the German grid is also connected to the Norwegian grid. The Norwegian grid has a lot of hydroelectricity. And consequently, between them, Norway and Germany are both a lot more green than they would be if they were not interconnected. Regional grids make sense today. They make sense, obviously, for green purposes. They also make sense for economic purposes. We talk of links between India and Bangladesh, between India and Nepal. There's talk of a link between India and Sri Lanka. All of these make economic sense. What the One Sun, One World, One Grid does is it joins these regional grids. And in doing so, provides us with an opportunity to share not only solar, but also other green forms of energy, all of which ultimately derive from solar, with each other. It is, we believe, the way that we would be able to have an interconnected world, and an interconnected world in which economic benefits, therefore, also lead to geopolitical benefits, and an interconnected world in which, as the sun goes around, we harvest the energy wherever the sun is. This is the big vision. This is what we are all working towards. As we move ahead, we at the International Solar Alliance would like to see how we make this happen. And I would like to share with you in a few minutes, how is it that we are going ahead with this coordination? If I could have the first slide, please. The way we are going about it is to see first that we have a global, thank you. The way we are looking at it is that we see a world in which solar obviously is the way of the future. That's number one. But which way do I point? Where is the... No, but where do I point? There?
No, so this is slight change.
So I'll have to point it against on the computer.
No.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
This one.
This one. Oh, okay. Great, great, great. Thanks. Technology is always a challenge. And moving from one generation technology to another is an even greater challenge. All of us understand that. So what we do see is that solar is at the heart of us moving ahead. As the Deputy High Commissioner mentioned, we look at the Global Green Grid Initiative at COP26 as being a major way for all the world to collaborate and move ahead. And we look at the One Sun, One World, One Grid as the first manifestation of that global green grid. We see that these, both in national and regional grids, solar is becoming more important, and it's the job of the Solar Alliance to help countries in accelerating this move. We look at both cross-border as well as decentralized applications and see how we can move ahead. What we believe is that solar energy has the potential to bring us all together. Angan, I again need your help. It changed, somehow it changed.
This is slide you want?
Well, this is the one I want. Yes, that's fine.
I'll be here.
Okay. So we see solar as having a major role, a key role in addressing development and in addressing climate change. I don't think you can separate these two things out. There are here and now benefits. Mr. Gautam Ray's company has, for example, been looking at how do you create batteries downstream of distribution transformers in a way that you don't have to increase the size of the distribution transformer because there isn't space in urban areas. Those same batteries can store the electricity that is produced by the rooftop solar in the areas that they serve. It is a here and now solution to a problem. And it is the stepping stone to solutions which are based on solar in the future. We are therefore looking at solar energy being at the heart of moving to net zero emissions by mid-century. It could be 2040 in some countries, as some countries have promised. It could be 2060 in other countries, but this is the time period that we are focusing on, 2050, so to say. We also understand that if we are not able to do it, the world is sunk. And I literally mean that not just as a figurative or a figure of speech. We look at solar as providing actually as much energy as you want. Because on the one hand, the prices of solar are decreasing, and on the other hand, its performance is increasing. We also see that the change in the overall economics of solar is on the cards. According to us, in the next year, which is 2022, according to others, latest by 2030, we will be in a situation where the electricity from solar plus batteries will be competitive or cheaper than electricity from fossil fuels. This is an important milestone because what it means is that after that, we would not have any more addition of coal production. It's quite possible that in India, we may already be in a situation where you have enough capacity. We may not have any more coal capacity being added except at the margin, but coal use will certainly increase because how do you meet the electricity needs at night? If you do it from batteries, it's very expensive today. But as I said, certainly by next year and possibly latest by 2030, we will see this change happening in all geographies in the world. We also note that solar PV is not the only game in town. There are many countries where solar thermal has become a central technology as well. Whether you look at Egypt or at Morocco or at Mexico, we see solar thermal becoming competitive on its own as it also stores energy and therefore can provide electricity at night. So I would like to place the one sun, one world, one grid concept within this larger picture. When the Prime Minister of India announced this, he was looking at a way of both enabling a global trade in green electricity, but also in providing the basic building block of solar infrastructure at a global scale. We were asked by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy to look into this, and the Assembly of the International Solar Alliance, which is the approximately 98 countries who are members of the Solar Alliance, enthusiastically asked us to do so. Deputy High Commissioner Lowe mentioned the fact that we are very proud to have the UK as one of the regional vice presidents of the International Solar Alliance, and the UK support in moving ahead on the one sun, one world, one grid was extremely crucial. Now, how do we move ahead? Well, we are working with a number of partners, but our main partner today is the World Bank. The World Bank is already involved in developing the regional electricity grids that I spoke about in many, many parts of the world. And therefore, as we want to build the relationship between those regional grids, it just made sense to have them as partners. The World Bank is helping bring these together. The president of COP, Minister Alok Sharma, is involved in a number of discussions on this with the regional, number of regional consultations which are based around this electricity trade. That will bring up the political buy-in into the issue of this interconnectivity. What we are doing is doing the analytical part, which feeds into the political movement ahead. So the first thing that we have done is to see where is this feasible? When is this feasible? Is this feasible at a transfer of 1 gigawatt? Is this feasible at a transfer of 10 gigawatts between regions? Is it feasible in only as a terrestrial, or is it also feasible as undersea cables? The next thing that we are seeing, based on this, what are the places where it makes economic sense? So figure out the connections where it makes economic sense. Does it make sense to connect the Gulf countries and India? Or does it make sense to look at some other geography in the years coming ahead? Possibly India with Asia, with East Asia becomes the most possible. So let's see. And the third part is, if you have any such set of interconnections, you need institutional mechanisms to manage it. You're putting electricity on one side, you're taking it from the other side. Well, yes, of course, voltage and current and so on need to be defined, but the key issue is, how will you charge for it? Because the person who's investing in this grid needs to make money. So you need it to be remunerative, but it should not make solar completely non-competitive. And consequently, with an institutional structure which brings in the confidence of investors, is the final step in making this one sun, one world, one grid move ahead. We have asked, through a competitive bidding process, a consortium led by Electricité de France to carry out this analytical study. EDF is important. EDF has been looking at the North Africa-Europe grid. They've been looking at the Australia-Singapore connection. And consequently, we hope that they bring in the learnings from these other interactions into the techno-economics, into the where does this make sense, and into the institutional management. We look at them providing a proof of concept, which we will present to our assembly in October, and then take to the COP in November. So at the COP in Glasgow, we look forward to put out this proposal. This is how it makes economic sense. These are the places where it makes the greatest sense to start off. And then by May next year, we would look at the institutional studies. And then the detailed implementation, we hope, would form the next part. This makes sure that the discussions that we have at Glasgow, as Minister Sharma has often said, are not just discussions, they lead to action in the longer term. We then, in the third phase, look at the kinds of policies that are needed in the interconnecting countries, the frameworks for planning that are necessary to establish the necessary institutional mechanisms for this to happen. So we are looking at this occurring in a phased manner. And we are looking at it occurring in a way that builds up solar energy across various countries. I look forward to the participation of many of you in this room in this One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative as we go ahead, whether as companies or whether as countries. I want to thank you for this attention. I look forward to come back to you and talk more about the One Sun, One World, One Grid as the information and discussions move ahead. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur, from the core of our heart. In fact, you have rightly said, sun rises, sunset in a particular part of the earth. But earth as a whole always see the sun is there. And the concept of this grid, what he was explaining to us, to me, it's nothing but diversity management. If we look back, there are instances of advancement of clock, time zone concept. These were all to harness the sun, energy from sun as daylight to the extent possible. And it's not something which is talked about today. Long back in the time of Second World War, these concepts were practiced. So definitely the grid, the solar grid is the call of the day. He has mentioned about the transfer of energy and competitive pricing. Definitely we have a belief that market force will push and ultimately the cheaper one will exist. With the roadmap what he has explained to us, we all are very much confident today that it is going to happen. So thank you, Dr. Mathur, again. Now is the time we are waiting. The Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry is honored to have the opportunity of felicitating Dr. Ajoy Mathur on his taking up this international assignment at the International Solar Alliance as a global leader, spearheading the adoption of solar energy on global scale and contributing to the green transformation and journey to net zero carbon emission. In fact, generally institutions bring the changes, but in some of the cases, the legendary personalities like Dr. Mathur becomes the institution. So with this, I would request, we have two videos. Angana, it's your turn.
Dr. Ajoy Mathur is the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, ISA. He earlier headed the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, and the Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEE. He was responsible for mainstreaming energy efficiency in houses, offices, and industries through a number of innovative initiatives. He was a leading climate change negotiator and was the Indian spokesperson at the Paris climate negotiations in COP21 in 2015. He served as the interim director of the Green Climate Fund during its foundational period. He was also a member of Indian Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change and co-chair of the Global Energy Transitions Commission. At TERI, he has spearheaded the move to accelerate action towards a low-carbon and cleaner economy through the adoption of renewable energy in the Indian electricity sector, enhancing efficiency in buildings and industry, and promoting environmental quality through recycling of material wastes and biotechnology-based solutions. He also anchored the annual World Sustainable Development Summit, WSDS, during his tenure at TERI. The Bengal Chamber has been the outreach partner of TERI's WSDS, and it has been the practice for the last few years to have WSDS regional dialogue as a part of the Chamber's annual Environment and Energy Conclave. Dr. Mathur has traditionally graced the Chamber as the keynote speaker in all the editions of the Environment and Energy Conclave. Dr. Ajoy Mathur is the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, ISA.
Welcome to the International Solar Alliance. We are a global organization based here in Delhi, in India. Our goal is to enable solarization of the world, to bring up solar in the priority of all political decisions in every country of the world. How do we do it? Well, first of all, we have 75 member states, and that number increases every day. Every country which is a member of the UN is eligible to be a member of the Solar Alliance. And as we work on solarization, we realize that it brings a bundle of benefits. For example, energy access is best enabled through solar, no matter how remote it is. Solar can provide the energy services, the modern energy services that people need. It also brings in electricity at competitive prices. It's a cleaner air and water. There's energy security, and there is climate mitigation and green economic recovery. These are all issues which are important to our member states. And this is the reason why they place solar at a higher priority than they did earlier. As we work together, we want to help them in enhancing their policies and programs. We produce, therefore, first of all, an annual update of what has happened in the solar area, in technology, in investments, in markets, so that when they develop a program, it reflects what is happening in the world, it reflects their state of knowledge. Second, we build up capacity, especially in developing countries, so that not only in the design and installation of solar projects, but also in the regulatory processes, in the banking processes, in the policy processes, changes occur which are far-reaching and long-lasting. And third, in some countries, particularly in least developed countries and in the small island developing countries, we carry out pilot projects which create the demand, which people can see, which help in bringing out the changes in policies and processes, so that then there is a second project, a third project, and a 100th project. Together, these enable the change that we want. We are, of course, an international organization, and a lot of cultures are represented here. We respect those cultures, and our culture builds on the strength of each of those. We would like you to bring your culture with you. We would like us to look at each other with dignity. Equity and access is important to us. We look to work with professionalization. As we move ahead, as you come to us, we also wish that we bring in the changes that the world needs to see. We are based here in India, one of the oldest countries in the world, one of the fastest growing. We would like you to enjoy the cuisine here. We would like you to enjoy the tourism, the sights, the adventure sports, the conflation of the old and the new. To each one of you, with a passion for solar energy, with ideas for making a change, with ideas that can be converted into practice, we are waiting for you. Together, we will rewrite history.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. It's really a great opportunity for us. And I would invite President of the Chamber, Mr. Debe Mukherjee, to facilitate Dr. Mathur.
It's indeed a great honor for me to felicitate Dr. Ajay Mathur. With your permission, may I read the citation to Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance. On this, the 16th day of the month of July in the year 2021, the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry is honored to felicitate you for your inspiring leadership in low carbon development, green innovation, and catalyzing a cleaner economy in the global arena. Your immense contributions in the fields of global climate treaties, leadership in international and national spheres in the realms of energy efficiency, development, application, and adoption of innovative models of renewables integration, and in creating benchmarks in the journey towards net zero carbon emission are without any parallel. Your leadership in sustainable development and climate change negotiations in the United Nations and expert roles in Honorable Prime Minister of India's Council on Climate Change and Global Energy Transitions Commission have paved the path for nations, corporates, and thought leaders to follow. We are fortunate to share our time with a distinguished thought leader like yourself, who has advocated for public policies in sustainable development nationally and internationally. Your contributions in green transformations would always be remembered and treasured. With our deepest regards.
इधर आ जा। अच्छा, जहाँ
As Dr. Mathur had mentioned when he was addressing us, he has interacted very closely with with all of us, of course, in the chamber, particularly with some of our senior colleagues. And with your permission, may I request two of our senior colleagues, our past president, Alok Mukherjee, and the mentor of the Energy and Environment Committee, Arun Mukherjee, to say a few words about Dr. Mathur. Alok, our past president, Mr. Alok Mukherjee. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A lot has already been said about Ajay, Dr. Ajay Mathur, and I'm sure there is more to come and more will come for a man like Ajay Mathur. So I will start with his connection with Bengal Chamber. What happened after that? I remember it was one of these energy and environment conclave, I think being held in ITC. So one gentleman came to me before it started that somehow I have heard a lot of about Ajay Mathur, but never met him. Could you please introduce him to me? That gentleman should remain unnamed. Everyone here knows him almost. He was the CEO of a big company. Anyway, so I, of course, took him, and Ajay being Ajay, I almost embraced him and knowing a new person. And they talked quite a lot. They talked quite a lot before the start of the session. And then the session started. He went to the audience, and Ajay went to the dais, where always he is sitting, I'm sure. And he was brilliant, as usual. Then the session ended before lunch. And this guy came to me and told me, a man, I mean, I have talked totally with him maybe 10 minutes or something like that. A man who has such a breadth and depth of knowledge. His problem was somewhere else. He said, how can he be so unassuming? Completely, he doesn't even know me. And he answered my question, behaved with me as if he knew me for a long time. So I told him at that time, I remember, and he was very passionate in his address also, as he normally is. I said, look, there is a saying, there are two classes of people. One class of people who have to be reminded always that remember, when your shadow becomes taller than you, then the sun is going to set soon. One class of people, like us maybe. But Ajoy belongs to another class of people who never looks at the shadow. He looks at the sun, and he will do that lot from now on, more than he has done in his lifetime. And look at the sun and grow taller and taller. That's Ajoy Mathur for you. I have seen this from the beginning. I think we started it about 1.5 decades ago. We started from Bengal Chamber, this conclave, Energy and Environment Conclave. There was, I mean, it made a name sort of amongst the Calcutta Chamber. In fact, I have told in other chamber that if you don't have to copy, but if you have to emulate, then emulate the Energy and Environment Conclave of Bengal Chamber. And many agreed that it is so, and said they have since then they have improved quite a lot. But anyway, the whole point is that in this Energy and Environment Conclave, the Bengal Chamber made a name for itself through this. They have many other functions, but this is one of the signature events since it started almost more than a decade ago. It started about, I think, 13, 14 years ago, whatever. And a large part, I won't say that is full, but a large part of the popularity of this particular function comes out of one person, that's Ajoy Mathur. It made the chamber work day and night. And you know, he has not coming here, giving a lecture and going away that everybody does. But he has become so deeply involved with this that he used to go through all the agenda, who's coming, who's talking what, and give his advice and counseling on that. And of course, he has been the rock star of climate science, not of the Bollywood or Hollywood variety, but he was a celebrity nonetheless. And everybody wanted to talk to him, of course, whoever has to do anything. I must say that we have learned a lot from him. So much so that I have done it myself. I actually teach this in a university in postgraduate classes. One of the things is energy management and environment. I have learned so much from him and being able to disperse it to the students. You see, I cannot remember any one occasion that I have met him, either in a public session or one-on-one, or in this room itself. We had this term was very popular at that time. Now also, fireside chat with Ajoy Mathur, Alok Mukherjee with Ajoy Mathur. So that even there we saw, I saw that every meeting with him is a learning session for me, has been. And it has been so for the Bengal Chamber as a whole. And that's why in energy and environment, Bengal Chamber is what it is. And even at the risk of getting accused of unashamed, unabashed, blatant, I would say that Ajoy has also a different kind of attachment with Bengal Chamber. And we are very proud, and we sincerely feel that we have been able to make such an attachment. You know, he has given us a lot in this whole chamber and its activities. We have not been able to give him much, but even then, if I may use that word slightly, he has to go to all the chambers. He can't avoid it. But if I may use that word, he has always been a little partial to Bengal Chamber. And we thank him. We are immensely grateful to him for being that small partiality towards Bengal Chamber. And finally, I would like to say, I think, who said this? I think a guy called Carter Baden has said this, that you can't be too rich, can't be too thin. Rich wants to be richer. The models, male or female, wants from thin to be thinner. And you can't say that you have read too many books. That's impossible. It needs quite a few lifetimes to read. You have read too many books. So you can't be too rich, you can't be too thin, and you can't be reading too many books. Here is a gentleman, Ajay Mathur, he is like that. You can't have too much of Ajay Mathur. Thank you very much for your patience.
Good afternoon, everybody. In fact, when I was asked to share my experience interacting with Dr. Mathur, who is very lovingly, today I address him as Ajay, I was reflecting back 2008, when he decided from the Energy Environment Committee that we are required to organize a conclave. And the challenge was that how to make it unique, how to make it so different that everybody in this region, even nationally, people will look at this problem, look at this program, and try to emulate it. Now, when we started with this type of agenda or vision, I would like to share with you the biggest hurdle I faced, along with my colleagues that time, is the identity crisis. When we used to get the good speakers, the secretaries, the ministers, daily-based organization CEOs, we had to really struggle to introduce ourselves, where from we are coming, what is Bengal Chamber of Commerce. And I recall to get Dr. Sharan, he had kindly agreed to give me an appointment, and I had to make a presentation for half an hour. And he said, my God, really so there is an organization like Bengal Chambers there? Under that environment, under that condition, situation, we could get a joy. And it was such a joy for us, such a relief for us, when we got first time in 2008 and we heard his address. Immediately it was a hit. Immediately it touched our heart, because we believed from this committee in energy conservation, in climate change issue, and we could immediately see a national, global leader who believes so passionately in this. And I will not disagree that Ajay is little partial to Bengal Chamber, but I would say it is mutual. because when he was heading BEE, I recall number of the policy initiatives he used to come and share using this platform, and Bengal Chamber believed in that, and we used to pursue those dreams, those vision from this region, and we used to spread it to the industry, to the society in our own way. In fact, even today, most of our outreach programs contains the energy efficiency, energy conservation themes and subjects. While developing this program as a signature program, as one of the best program, I would like to say that we got tremendous support and help from Ajay in every aspect of it. We used to decide the theme of the session, and just to have the date blocked by the key speakers, we used to have a fixed date every year, 26th and 27th August. And the venue was also fixed, that is ITC. So it was easy, and every year after the theme was set, the key address used to be given by Ajay, which used to set the tune of the whole program. And that definitely had made the program so successful. It was accepted by everybody, nationally, internationally. Subsequently, we started getting partner countries, UK, USA, Germany, Poland. We used to get business delegation matching with this program date. And what is Ajay, what's his capability? I think enough has been shared and said. Here we have seen him in the international negotiation table as a support to the government of India. Immediately after that program, we used to have a program here where he used to share what had happened in that international meeting, what we are going to look forward, what we can do ourselves. In every discussion, in every presentation, I would like to feel his passion, his belief in what he used to do, what he used to say, and he used to act accordingly. Of course, I believe that he believes in a culture of virtue and humility. That's why he's so approachable, he's so unassuming, and we personally, Bengal Chamber, can approach him and can demand from him anything what we feel we can get his contribution. Today, he is a member of our managing committee by his connectivity, which is professional, and more than professional, I would say emotional, because more than 13, 14 years of relationship, of interaction, everybody gets converted. And in this journey, he also helped us to build relationship with Terry, and which I was personally pursuing from Dr. Pachuri's time, but could not get through. And definitely I am grateful, we are grateful for this relationship, which is definitely helping us quite a lot. in pursuing our belief, pursuing our goal, also positioning Bengal Chamber in the national and international forum. We cherish this relationship, and we shall look forward, personally also I shall look forward to this growing relationship, and let this continue and we get the benefit of your blessings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alok Mukherjee. Thank you, Mr. Arun Kumar Mukherjee, for sharing your experience with Dr. Mathur. And we all are privileged and honored that Dr. Mathur has given us this opportunity to felicitate him in this occasion. Thank you, sir. We are also honored with the presence of Mr. Nick Lowe. I would request Mr. Abraham Stephanus, President Designate, to present the memento to Mr. Nick Lowe, to pay our respect and the deep level of association what we have with him. Thank you, sir. I would now request Mr. Neil Span and Mr. Don Scott, who have joined from UK, to address affordable and accessible solar for all. Mr. Span and Mr. Scott, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me well. Just to confirm that you can hear me talking. Thank you. And thank you to Mr. Deb Mukherjee and the Chamber for giving us the opportunity to talk today. We're very honoured by that. And I'd like to then congratulate Dr. Mathur on his felicitation. I've known Dr. Mathur personally for around about 5 years and have been hugely impressed by his energy and commitment to sustainability and actually changing lives. So well done for that. And it does feel slightly like after the Lord Mayor show presenting in this slot. So but I'd like to tell you a little bit about our view of Solar for All and a little bit about what we're doing here at Powerol. But I guess I'd firstly like to start at the highest level. So, and I'm really picking up from what Nick and Dr. Mathur said earlier. The one solar, one world, one grid concept, I think, is fundamentally excellent. You know, we only need to harvest less than 1% of the solar energy that the sun provides to power the whole world. But as Dr. Mathur quite rightly said, the sun does not shine everywhere all the time. So by joining up all of this generation, there is a clear way to achieve our net zero targets. And at Powerol, our vision, I used to do a lot of traveling before COVID, and I'm really, desperate to come back and see my colleagues and friends in India. It's been, nearly 2 years since I've been there. But when you're on a train, when you're on a plane, you're landing into Mumbai Airport, Delhi Airport, whether it be in Africa, I see all these surfaces everywhere that we believe could generate solar energy, whether that be a building, whether that be a bridge, whether that be the central reservation of a motorway, whether that be a tarpaulin roof, whether that be a farmer's agricultural building. All of these surfaces can generate energy. And I think with the initiative that the International Solar Alliance are preparing in terms of then driving and pulling all these energies together, it's very, very exciting. So thank you for the opportunity to talk. We're going to share a little bit about what our R&D that we've been undertaking over the last 10 years and talk about our new way to generate energy. Next slide, please.
Wait. Not sure what happened there.
So I'll quickly cover this, and Nick covered it very well before. I mean, none of us can escape that climate change is impacting the lives of virtually everyone across the globe. So, you know, Nick talked about the record temperatures in Canada. I mean, just yesterday, over 100 lives, unfortunately, lost in Germany because of flooding. We had the terrible typhoon near Calcutta. This climate change is impacting us all, and actually urgent action is required now. There are other factors in play. Energy demand is still increasing in many parts of the world. And the need to switch to low carbon energy has never been greater. And we believe we can play a part. There is no silver bullet in this outcome, but we believe that Power, we can help play a part. And the two themes that I think we're going to talk about today, which I think are really relevant, are innovation and collaboration, mentioned by a number of the people already today. Innovation is key, but collaboration is equally important. And I think the COVID-19 response actually reflects that if countries, if companies, if governments, if organizations like the International Solar Alliance and others come together, then the solution is that can be made possible. But the collaboration is absolutely key. And the size of the opportunity in terms of and the challenge that we've got to do, and I agree with Nick that it feels possible now. The International Energy Agency just a short while ago, you know, said that the amount of solar that needs to be installed needs to be over 4 times what has been done to date. So the time is now when we need to act. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Powerol. So we're a UK company. We've been developing over the last 10 years a completely new way to generate solar energy. And we've been doing that based in the UK with many partners, but we've been working very closely with our Indian collaborators. And Don will talk a little bit about that later on, but very closely with Terry and other organizations in India to bring this technology to market. And what we've got is a way to generate energy at a fraction of the cost of other solar technologies. And we'll talk about that on the next slide. But importantly, not only affordability, that was mentioned earlier, affordability is absolutely critical. But what is also important is knocking down some of the barriers that exist today for existing solar technology. And there are many. You know, current solar panels are mainly manufactured in China, in the Far East. I don't think that's a sustainable model. We want to see solar energy, in particular our Powerol solar film, manufactured close to the markets and in the markets that they need to be to use our film. So whether that be India, whether that be parts of sub-Saharan Africa, whether that be Southeast Asia, Europe, the US, we believe in a decentralized and empowered manufacturing of solar film, and our unique technology enables that. It doesn't require billions of dollars to be invested in a centralized solution. What we've got is a new technology that allows local manufacturing. So green jobs can be created in countries rather than all being centralized in a particular location. It uses equipment that is used in the production of very low cost items such as banknotes, holograms. So technology that is widely understood. And it allows also the solar film to be installed locally, again, creating further jobs. And this is very important for us. And we've got a technology that's so easy to be deployed that a farmer could carry 15 to 20 kilowatts of our solar film under his arm, roll it out, and he already has solar power. Now, then it needs to be connected in a smart way so that basically the energy that's not being harvested can be used in other parts. And I think that's where the International Solar Alliance's initiative really comes to the fore. But this is really driving affordability and accessible to all. And, you know, as we will all know, there are hundreds of millions of people around the world who still do not have access to affordable energy and reliable energy. And that's from one of the UN sustainability goals. So one of our missions here at Powerol is, and Don will touch on this later, is to work with partner organizations to roll out the deployment of our solar film alongside other technologies to make it affordable and accessible to all. Next slide, please. So let me tell you a little bit further about a little bit parallel. So we've got a technology that's unique and it can be manufactured at a fraction of the cost of other technologies. So we're looking at around about 5 US cents per watt manufactured cost. That's around about a tenth of other flexible PV and around about a quarter to a fifth compared to existing silicon PV manufactured in the Far East. And this is the affordability that we're talking about. But it's also lightweight. So it can go on any surface, as I mentioned it earlier, whether that be the roof of a farmer in the center of India or in Africa or Southeast Asia, whether that be a bridge, whether that be a dam. We're working with international partners, including Japan, and I welcome the ambassador from Japan, looking at very interesting use cases in the Japanese market for this technology, including things like dams. So, there are surfaces that are already there. Why use land that could be used for other use cases, agriculture or other things, when the surfaces already exist? In the world, there are billions of square meters of surfaces that can be made to generate solar energy by using our technology. Sustainability was mentioned earlier. That's very important. We need to reduce our reliance on rare earth materials. If we're going to scale up to the terawatt scale for solar, the reliance on rare earths has to reduce. And we have a solution that does not use rare earths and can be recycled. So it's very, very important. It's simple and easy to install. It's suitable for any surface out there. And we believe it's a very, very exciting part of the journey to achieving net zero. So that's really the innovation part. What Don's going to cover is some of the applications, but importantly, the collaboration, because as Dr. Mathur quite rightly pointed out, without access to finance, without access to the right partnerships, without the right collaborations, none of the exciting technologies, whether it be solar, like our solar film, whether it be storage, can be brought to market at scale. So Don, do you want to pick up a little bit further?
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. And I'll drop down to, sorry. Okay. So thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to follow on from Neil's comments and share a little bit from a market perspective of what we're doing with solar films. Over the last few months, my team and I have engaged with market leaders in a number of key industries, whether it's industrial roofing, agricultural buildings, tensile fabrics, and we've initiated conversations around, we have this new innovative solar film, very lightweight, very flexible, very efficient, coming to market. Could they incorporate this kind of a material into their products? And I have to say the feedback that we've received from industry on those discussions has been fantastic. We're happy to report that there's no shortage of demand for a new and innovative and lightweight PV material. And as Neil said, the surface areas that we're talking about are huge. The potential areas that are currently being, under, if not unproductive, things like industrial roofs, agricultural buildings, as we mentioned. We know that in the UK alone, there's over 1 billion square meters of industrial roof space today that's not being used for energy generation. And if we were able to cover just 25% of that surface area with solar film, we could be generating over 35 gigawatts of energy and make a real dent in our global ambition to sustainability. Other industries, transport, travel, the electrification of cars and buses and trucks, as Mr. Lowe mentioned, is happening at pace. We think a lightweight, flexible material can contribute to that process as well. And we're very excited about the industry and the demand that we're seeing. One other example, we had discussions with the Energy Efficiency Services, which, as you may know, is a JV under the ministry, the India Ministry of Power, and they shared with us the fact that there are over 1 million agricultural water pumps operating in India today, and that the vast majority of those are running diesel engines. And we think the transformation of that alone is a very worthy goal for us to pursue, and are working towards proving that concept in the near future. In addition to the big scale markets that I mentioned, one of the other interesting things about an accessible and affordable solar PV product is the ability to bring energy generation closer to home. As Neil mentioned, there's something like 840 million people on the planet today that lack reliable access to energy. And we think a lightweight, affordable, accessible PV product will help. Based on our current cost models of 5 cents a watt, we can see potential to be creating, if you just look at a very simple 1 meter squared panel generating 150 watts at a market price of somewhere near $20, the transformation that we can make on the lives of real people around the world is exciting and I think a very virtuous ambition. One panel at $20, of course, could provide lighting, could provide charging for phone and electronic radio devices, IoT devices, all vital in today's environment for people to communicate and understand what's going on in the world around them. We combine a couple of panels and increase the wattage, increase the power. Again, now we're looking at home computers, small refrigerators, small water pumps, as I mentioned, a little bit more, and we can move into some smaller end domestic appliances. And again, I think the exciting thing about the potential in front of us is looking at both of those tracks, the macro impact that we can make in adding value to surfaces around the world that exist today that are not playing a part in our net zero goals, but also making a real difference in the lives of people around the planet. And it's the affordability and the accessibility of solar film that gets that goal achievable. As Neil mentioned, collaboration, it has been brought up several times, collaboration is key. And we have a number of collaboration areas that my team are focused on, whether it's development partners like the ISA and NRELS Alliance, who are helping us to fine-tune, test, and finish the development. I mentioned our application partners who ultimately will be the demand for a lightweight solar film product. And then most importantly for us now is our license and scale manufacturing partners. And we're really excited to have both two partners today. As Neil mentioned, Thermax Global in India is collaborating with us on scaling solar film for the Indian market. And we have a very large Japanese energy company who is joining us on that journey as well. But in order to make the dent that we think we can make in our global ambitions, as Dr. Mathur so eloquently expressed, we need to get more large industrial, large manufacturing partners, large energy partners to join us on this journey. We think there's both an opportunity to help sustainability goals as well as a very, very compelling business model. And we're interested and excited about the opportunity, me particularly, of growing that particular part of our ecosystem in the future. I think with the collaboration of those partners and everybody else represented on this chart, we can make a big dent in the challenge in front of us in the not too distant future. And we look forward to achieving those goals with you as we move forward. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share Solar Film Know. And I will hand it back to you in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neil Span and Mr. Don Scott, for a very interesting presentation. You have spoken about affordable and accessible solar for all. I would add 2A, assuring and attaining a scale. But nevertheless, it is very, very relevant and contextual. I would now request Mr. Ketan Chitnis, Vice President Stationary BU at Excite Lakelands Energy Limited. He will be joining from Mumbai.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me, and I'll just share my screen. Hope it's visible. Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon, and I'm extremely thankful for this opportunity to participate in this event. It's been a great initiative. One sun, one world, and one grid. And obviously, the innovations can bring a lot of changes to the people, in their lives and into their day-to-day livings. So grid stability is, I think, one of very important criteria, and it's absolutely important that you have a stable grid. And obviously, what happens after sun hours is also very important. So mitigating the energy demands after the sun hour is extremely critical. So energy storage has been an absolutely a mandatory or a companion of the renewable energy. And you don't have consistent renewable energy from any of the renewable sources. And obviously you require batteries in terms of having a consistent energy output. It's very important to give 24/7 energy if you want to reduce the carbon footprint. Yesterday, I was just going through figures and I was surprised to see that India has got 120 gigawatt of DG sets running. And that's, every hour, if that is the amount of energy which we are using on diesel, then you can imagine the carbon footprint or the opportunity to reduce the carbon footprint. And as the grids become more and more stable, obviously there will be a significant reduction in that. So obviously innovation in the energy storage is extremely important for any sustainable renewable initiative that we want to take forward. And I would be putting a spotlight on what are all promising energy storage options that we have. So we'll look at the application areas. I will be keen to take you through the distributed energy storage concept. And we will obviously talk about a couple of building blocks which we can utilize for distributed energy storage as well as the grid scale storage. So as you know, I'm not going to go much into the application part. The grid ancillary services and renewable integration, I think, two are the issues on crunch right now. So we are looking at the energy arbitrage, asset life extension, AT&C losses. Also, black start is very important. When you don't have, you have a grid failure or any such issues. Recently, there was one event, and it's very important that you have this black start and islanding feature. Managing the demand response, obviously reducing the diesel consumption, the peak shaving on the grids, because grids has got certain capacities, and obviously it's not a good idea to overload the grids during the peak demands. Also the grid congestion reliefs, power smoothing, ramp rate control is very important for renewables. The reactive power control is obviously one of the areas very critical. And the frequency and voltage regulation. So all these features you require, batteries in terms of controlling and bringing the stability to the grid. I'll just give you a brief idea about distributed energy storage. The idea is to have the energy reserves near to the consumption possible, so that there is minimum transportation of the energy. And you do not, incur a great AT&C losses. So you have a optimization of AT&C losses there. And also, you get a local energy security for the critical installations in that particular area. And obviously, these comes in much smaller packages. So, in terms of investments also, it is much more viable. So idea is that you link these number of small storages together and operate it through a single command center, which is a network operating center. And you can switch, you can bring this into operation, or you can, put it on charging based on your grid demand. And all these storages can operate simultaneously and give the same impact as the grid scale storage. So this is a basic building block which we have recently done. This is the first community energy storage system of India, which is installed with Tata Power DDL in New Delhi in one of their substations. This is a very classic case that this substation has attained its peak capacity, and in terms of further accommodating the peak demands, this has to be upgraded. And we have used the energy storage there, which can control multiple functions, and wherein they would be able to defer their capex for next 5 to 6 years. So these are all parameters which we are controlling. We obviously control the deviation settlement mechanism, which is a very important part, and which is a major, the expense contributor for energy distribution companies. So our depending on the deviation settlement mechanism, our batteries can charge or discharge in terms of giving additional energy whenever it is required, and maybe in terms of charging batteries, utilizing the energy so that the operator is always staying within the deviation settlement band. Peak shaving is also a critical function. This is tapped in the secondary of the transformer. So whenever there is an additional demand, we can supply the power in the secondary of the transformer so that transformer is always operating at a optimal demand level. Also, we are providing privileged services to certain customers, like we have Delhi Metro on that substation, and giving a consistent energy output to these critical customers is very important. So those privileged services are also provided, wherein we give them guarantee of a almost 100% kind of uptimes with the power supply. Also, we do frequency voltage regulation, which is a very critical grid ancillary parameter. And this is a basic building block of the distributed ESS. So this can be replicated at number of such substations. They can be operated simultaneously, and we can control the grid level parameters with the help of this distributed energy storage. If you look at the financial net worth of this particular concept, then on the expenditure side, you have a capex and a small amount of opex. These are cloud connected devices, so obviously your opex costs are extremely minimum. And you get a direct capex deferral on the upgradation cost, which is a huge capex deferral. You get a handsome saving on the DSM part. Reactive power compensation is one of the major part. So we are able to save a great amount of money on the reactive power compensation with the help of these batteries. And obviously the asset life extension is the benefit. So we have a detailed study on this and all the business case established, and we can clearly weigh that the gains are much higher. So in a scenario wherein a lot of distribution companies in India are finding it very difficult to invest on large storages, I think this is more viable option going forward for the grid services. So we talk of a few building blocks which can be utilized in this. I think the earlier solution which I had demonstrated was a containerized solution. But now we have come up with a more easier approach to this solution, and which is a modular design. So these are outdoor battery cabinets with the HVAC. So in the photograph, you can see that every cabinet has a separate HVAC, and these are scalable. So you can connect these next to each other and connect them together in terms of adding capacity. So a single building block is 76.8 kilowatt hours, and then you can scale those blocks together. So this is a very standard solution. You can go for a bulk production. Cost-wise, it becomes very you're very economical as it is a standardized solution, and you have a flexibility of scaling this as per your capacity requirements. So we all, all these functions which I explained can be accomplished with the help of these energy storages. So this is ideally suited for microgrid and distributed energy storage. And the most important feature of this this particular solution is that the consumption of HVAC is very less. So if you look at the HVACs that we have developed, it takes only 1 or 2 units per day in terms of maintaining temperature inside that particular cabinet. And obviously, the auxiliary consumption of this is very less. So it's very important when you are storing energy, the auxiliary consumption is minimized. And if you look at the cost, this comes at a very good economy, because the cost of cooling batteries is extremely negligible. The next solution which I want to showcase, I think we are showcasing it for the first time in this event. And this is a lay block solution which our parent company Leclanché has developed. This is a modular solution which can be used for grid scale storage. So the most important part is that this is modular. This is very simple for logistics. You can almost transport it like containers. And since it's a standard solution, you can install it pretty fast on the sites. So the amount of time required in terms of bringing these projects up is absolutely minimum. Obviously, the cost of ownership is very less. If you look at life of these solutions, these are liquid cooled solution, and it carries an excellent cyclic as well as calendar life. And this requires a very less space, so it has a very minimal environmental footprint. To see it in detail, basically it has got 2 blocks. One is a battery block and other is a combi block. So battery block hosts all the battery modules and all the protection circuitries, and obviously combi block has all the interconnection which are maintained inside it, and also it maintains the temperature. So these are liquid cooled solutions. So this has got all the circuitry which is required to circulate the fluid and maintain the temperature on all the racks. So you can see the top view of that. These are connected. So these 4 blocks, when they connected together, they are the same size as the 20-foot container. And we have got a special twist lock, intermediate connections, which are tested and proven during the transit conditions as well as during the installations. This can simply be lifted and loaded on the ship. So this requires minimum packaging, because if you want to pack these modules separately, it will require a lot of wooden palleting and all the packaging and whatnot. So it doesn't require any of that for this particular one. This can be simply shipped as a 20-foot container, and it has got all the strength and dynamics in terms of taking care of that transit. So it's very convenient. These are some of the renders, of the recent projects that we have started, and this is how this can be installed. Very compact, very easy to install. It has got connections on the top, so we only have to put the flexible connectors from the top, nothing in the bottom. So simply this can be kept next to each other, interconnected, and we are good to go with that. So you don't require any underground wiring. Creating any ductings or anything. It's a very easy solution. If you look at the safety, this solution carries the highest safety standards. This is fire resistant construction, so it can contain the fire for 90 minutes. I think that is a great time. That is the time you can evacuate people around, or you can take corrective actions in terms of containing fire. This has got an automated fire detection and fire suppression system. It has got an emergency stop function. So in case of any wrong parameters, it can automatically stop the functioning and avoid any incidences. So it has got a very efficient EMS. This has got isolation monitoring. So in case any problem with the isolation of the batteries, this can immediately trigger an error. This is one of the beautiful concept, deflagration panels, which we are putting in case of any internal pressures being developed. The panels push upward in terms of reducing that pressure, and obviously we carry all major UL and IEC certifications for this particular solution. This was about some of the very innovative solutions which are which we are proposing or which are available in the market, and I think this will definitely bring a great revolution into the energy storage, and with the economics and the scalability of these solutions, this can definitely support the better stability of the grid and bring better viability of installing these solutions in different countries. So suppose if I have to install this solution in a third world country, I hardly require any local resources there. Everything is prefabricated, tested, and this is just you have to ship and install it at that particular location. NextCharge, as you know, is a joint venture between Exide and Leclanché, and Exide always has excellent relationships with BCC, and I'm extremely thankful for this opportunity and this initiative which BCC has taken. So I'll be keen to receive your queries on my email ID, or you can also give me a call, and we will definitely be interested in terms of further innovating it. So it's a continuous process. So thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chitnis, for running us through the storage technology, various options, finance, applications, safety aspects. And all of us know this is basically will make or break storage technology in future, be it in hybrid mode, be it in standalone mode. That's probably one of the answer. Although we know that all the dignitaries have pressing assignments, but I would request Mr. Debe Mukherjee to conduct a small session, a small window if we can utilize, because all of us are waiting eagerly to have a small interaction with Dr. Mathur. Dr. Mukherjee, please.
There is a time constraint. Unfortunately, Dr. Mathur has to go back to Delhi. So it allows us not more than maybe 10 minutes. Is that all right? Or should it be less? As less as possible. Okay, so about 10 minutes, if that's all right. And well, the idea was online as well as physical interaction for with the people, with the delegates, with the audience present here physically. So maybe we can take a couple of questions, if that's all right, and some observations or some questions from, yes, please. And let it be a short focused, yeah. Yeah.
That have been undertaken with respect to the ancillary power market development. Now, with that initiative coming in, how do you think it would impact one grid, a single grid project, and the structure of the sector as a whole? That's my first question. And second, very quickly, in the Single Solar Alliance, One Sun, One Grid, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people are seeing is how to manage the political conflict, the regional conflicts. So your views on these two aspects, please. Thank you.
Yes, Sudipto. Parthuda, would you like to ask anything? Okay. Dr. Sudipto there.
Do you think that the future sustainability will move more towards decentralized hybrid renewable rather than the single solar option?
Yes, Dr. Chaudhary. Oh,
rather than the single solar option.
Dr. Chaudhary and then Mr. Chatterjee. Dr. Chaudhary, please.
So the superconductor will perhaps make a major role in your success. And another thing is that the Indian philosophy of oneness, that we are all one, we are brothers. So that actually is the message that perhaps will also help in what the conflict has been raised issue. So these are, what are your views on that?
Mr. Chatterjee, please.
So what we thought of that after the oil, the data will be the next more probable happenings in the world. So when the data started to become migrated from one country to another country, then the GDPR comes to the picture. India government brings the data protection law. So do you think that after this one solar, one grid, any sort of law the country will bring to protect their own energy security for that purpose?
Any more questions at this point? No.
These are tough questions, and things for which answers are not yet. I'd like to share with you, as we are moving ahead, what is the current state of play. I would like to express that these are all works in progress. As far as the ancillary power market development is concerned, the ancillary power market has been around for some time, but it is very small and limited to coal power plants going up and down. The larger ancillary power markets will actually help the development. Why? Because if you want to invest in battery capacity, then I, as an investor in battery capacity, would need to make sure that I get a premium amount of money for the electricity that I provide from my batteries. And it is premium, it is solar plus the cost of batteries. So supposing in the evening, when the demand is higher, at that point of time, there is a premium paid. Obviously, it also implies that during the day when solar is there, the prices are lower. That can be provided through the ancillary market. So it provides investors with the confidence that they would recover the money. So that was the first issue. So I happen to believe that this will help the structure of the market in moving towards storage capacity. As far as the one sun, one world, one grid is concerned, I don't know what the impact will be. We will need things like ancillary services in order to draw renewable energy from the grid. Whether it will occur at long distance, intercontinental or not, it is not clear. Let me also at the same time address the issue of the potential conflicts. If that is the case, then it is quite possible that what makes sense between, say, West Asia and South Asia is a undersea cable. Economics matters. We will know what is the economic cost of, say, a line from Bombay to Oman. At the moment, we have undersea cables for internet. So it is not, we've had undersea cables, in the First World War, the German raider Emden was captured when it was trying to cut the cables that came from various, the telegraph cables that came together at an island in the south, in the near Australia somewhere. So we have a huge amount of experience with undersea cables. It can be done. The issue is economics. And that again is a question which we will know more about in the years to come. Now, as far as decentralized versus solar is concerned, we are at a situation, I presume, okay. I should first say that this is a question which really depends on geography. If you're looking at a country where every household is connected to the grid and has adequate electricity supply, say Germany. That is one category. Every household is connected to the grid, but there isn't reliable electricity supply, say India. And a third is where every household is not connected to the grid, say Burkina Faso. So there are three different answers. If you have got every household connected to the grid and you have adequate electricity, then clearly the first thing that will happen is grid connected supply. If you have got every household connected to the grid but not reliable electricity, what you will see is mini grids from various sources which supplement the main grid. So grid interactive mini grids. That's what we will see in India. The third is where you have standalone systems, which again could be hybrid, which is in those cases where renewable energy is providing the standalone electricity. But again, there the key issue is storage. And therefore, the rate at which the storage costs come down governs the rate at which acceleration occurs. I completely agree with you on your issue of we are one world. I mean, climate change has told us that unless we act together, we are all dead. And therefore, more than anything else, the issue of oneness has to percolate our idea of change. Yes, it will be for local benefits. You can't rule that out, including economic benefits. But we need to take the future knowing that we will be interconnected. As I said earlier, one of the main advantages of interconnectedness is that it, and particularly if it helps economics, is that many geopolitical conflicts get, I won't say get resolved, but get parked if there are economic benefits occurring. I mean, we've seen this in electrical connections, we've seen this in many, many parts of the world. Consequently, if we are able to do these interconnections and use them to provide electricity, I mean, you are very close to the eastern border of India. Today, we provide 300 megawatts on a regular basis to Nepal. Nepal's electricity shortage has come down from 50% to less than 25%. The electricity minister under which this happened to be the #2 man in the CPIM of Nepal, #2 to Prachanda. He is the one who made this happen. You know, you may remember he had come to the WSDS at Terry when he spoke about this. I would say that the lowering of the temperature of the geopolitics between India and Nepal occurred there. So this has the opportunity to bring us all closer. I greatly appreciate the remark that you made. On the issue of laws, you know, you may be right, you may not be right. And the reason is very simple. As we look towards the future, what are we looking at? We are looking at these interconnections being able to provide a greater flow of green energy. Already we can see a negative legislation, which is not all electricity flows on these links, but only green electricity. So whether it is the Green Grid Initiative that the top presidency is doing, or within it, the One World, One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative, they're both looking at green energy only. Now, beyond this, would you like to exclude certain countries? Would you like to ensure that for grid stability reasons, there is a certain kind of input that occurs? Only the future will tell. So let me leave it at that and call it as work under progress.
Suppose we should draw it. So thank you, Dr. Mathur. Again, we are almost at the close of the event. I would request Mr. Abraham Stephanus, President Designate, to deliver the vote of thanks and formally close the event.
Great pleasure to deliver thanks. Bengal Chamber is privileged to have Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, in our midst today. He has been a mentor to the Chamber in energy, environment, sustainability, and related areas. We have had the opportunity to engage with him closely for our signature initiatives in the past, and he has led the Chamber in creating a common vision of facilitating, catalyzing, and being enablers of green transformation. We do hope we will also have the privilege of working with the International Solar Alliance. The Chamber believes innovations, business and financial models, and feasible implementation of solar energy would empower our stakeholders to collectively contribute towards a sustainable future. We would like to extend our sincere thanks to Mr. Nick Lowe, British Deputy High Commissioner, for joining us today and sharing the roadmap to COP26 to be hosted in Glasgow, UK in November this year. We are grateful to their excellencies, Mr. Manfred Oster, German Consul General, and Mr. Nakamura Yutaka, Japanese Consul General, who have joined us in person at the Chamber. Thank you very much. We are also thankful to Mr. Neil Span, CEO, and Mr. Don Scott, Business Development Director, PowerRoll Limited, who joined us today from the UK to share their unique solution in photovoltaic generation of power. We also thank Mr. Ketan Chitnis, Vice President, Stationary Business Unit, Exide Leclanche Energy Limited, for sharing their details about their product and insights in storage dynamics. PowerRoll has been very generous to have sponsored today's program, which has enabled the Chamber to present it in a befitting manner. Thank you for that sponsorship. Our special thanks today to several past presidents, senior members, and stakeholders who have carved out time from their very busy schedules and joined us today to make it a very special occasion for all, especially as this is the curtain raiser to the Energy and Environment Conclave of Bengal Chamber, which will happen later this year. We would also like to thank our friends from the media who are here with us today. Your role in spreading the word is extremely important to us. So once again, on behalf of the Bengal Chamber, thank you all.